What is going on, everyone? My name is Andy. Welcome back to another FPL video. In this one, it's some of my early thoughts ahead of the Game Week 9 deadline. So I'm going to go through some of the key talking points and my notes from the weekend as well. Quick reminder that Champions League is back tomorrow, and Sleeper have a completely free Champions League pick'em game where you just have to make predictions every match day with prizes on offer. Links in the description below, and more on that to come later. So let's start with what to do with Bukayo Saka, who didn't play against Bournemouth at the weekend. He wasn't in the squad whatsoever for Arsenal. Now, the good news is that Arsenal have a Champions League game on Tuesday. So no matter what Arteta says in the press conference on Monday, we'll know definitively whether or not Saka is in that squad. And if he's in the squad and he starts, as long as he comes through that game without any other issues, we can assume he's going to be fit for Liverpool in Game Week 9. If he misses out completely in the Champions League game, then it gets a lot trickier, because for most players and most teams, we would then wait until Friday for the press conference information and then make a decision based on what the manager says. But with Arteta, it's very difficult to know from what he's saying what that means for the weekend. Like on the Friday press conference just gone, I think a lot of people would say that he was quite positive about Saka, and that turned out to not be a very good thing. So going into this Friday, are we hoping that Arteta is negative about Saka and says that he's not going to be available? Does that mean that he actually is? And this is the problem with Arsenal players and Mikel Arteta. And I've said this before, he's under no obligation to give us the correct team news, but obviously it makes it difficult when making decisions for FPL. So if I own Saka, I think if he starts in the Champions League, no issues in that game. We assume he starts in Game Week 9. If he misses out completely, and we don't get any kind of positive information about him ahead of the weekend, I just don't think you can take that risk again, because we all know that when Saka is fit and available, he's always going to start. But I think we also think that he's just going to start no matter how bad the knock is, and that's just not the case. He's missed a game this season. He missed at least one last season with a knock as well. Like, if he can't play, he can't play. And I think with Liverpool at home, Newcastle away, Chelsea away, I would probably lean more towards just getting rid of him if there's any doubts. Because those fixtures aren't terrible. Like, if Saka was fully fit, you wouldn't be in a rush to sell him. But they're also not good enough to risk him not playing again. If it was Leicester at home, Fulham away, Southampton at home, maybe you take that risk. But I think with Liverpool, Newcastle, Chelsea, you just don't. So that's kind of the state of play right now. Hopefully he just plays in the Champions League game tomorrow and your decision is kind of made. I think for anyone that's thinking about just getting rid of him, whether he's fit or not, it's not necessarily a terrible move. I think you probably will want Arsenal players back from Game Week 12 onwards. But I don't know if... And look, maybe I'm saying this now because I've sold him. Maybe there's a little bit of bias there. But I don't think that Saka is essential from Game Week 12. Like Forest at home in 12, West Ham away after that, then Man United at home, Fulham away, Everton at home. Good fixtures. And I would like Saka for that run. But I think if you get to Game Week 12 and you don't have him, it's not going to be a case of ripping your team apart to put him in, is how I would kind of view it. So if you move to Son, for example, he's got Palace away, Villa at home, Ipswich at home, next three. Definitely better fixtures than what Arsenal have got. Man City away in 12 is not great whatsoever, although playing on someone like Son playing on the counter against, Man City in transition, like we saw Wolves yesterday, they will create Man City problems. But it's not a great fixture on paper, right? We can all agree on that. But after that, it's Fulham at home, Bournemouth away. Not terrible. Chelsea at home, not completely awful. And then in Game Week 16, it's Southampton away. So I think with Son, for most people in Game Week 12, there will probably be a decision about whether to sell him to Palmer or Saka, whoever you don't own. But if you get stuck with him and you've got other transfers to make, having to hold him for Fulham, Bournemouth, Chelsea and Southampton potentially, I don't think is really the end of the world. I'd rather have Saka or Palmer, but I'm not going to panic if I've got to stick with Son. I'm certainly not going to take hits to move him out. So I think Son is a great option in Game Week 9. A lot of people are going to have the decision about whether or not, if they're moving Saka this week, whether or not to go to Palmer or Son. I think next three fixtures, I'd rather have Son, because he doesn't have to play Man United away and Arsenal at home. And I know Man United on paper doesn't look that bad, but they've actually defended okay the last two games. So they will make it tricky-ish for Chelsea. I think Palmer will still get chances. And Arsenal is a tricky fixture. Saliba will be back by then as well. But from Game Week 12 onwards, Palmer probably is the one out of him, Saka and Son that you're going to want to own. So part of me, if I had that decision this week, Saka to Son or Palmer, would be thinking I just get Palmer now and I just leave him in the team for a very long time. Like if you look at the fixture run that Chelsea have, you're probably not considering selling. I don't think you're considering selling Palmer, to be honest, until he gets an injury. Because the fixtures are just so good from game week 12 onwards. Like the worst ones on paper are Spurs away in 15. Again, you're not going to be worried about playing Palmer in that fixture. And Man City away in 23. That's such a big gap between, on paper, slightly tougher fixtures. It really doesn't matter. And even after that City game, and I know it's pointless basically talking about game week 24 onwards at this stage of the season, but it's then West Ham, Brighton, Villa, Southampton, Leicester. Like, you're not worried about any of those games. Then it's Arsenal away in 29. So Chelsea just don't have a really bad run of fixtures for a very, very long time from game week 12 onwards. So I think I would lean more towards going for Palmer over Son. But I do think in the short term, if you've got the spare transfers, going to Son for 9 to 11 and then Palmer from 12 onwards is probably the most ideal route. But that's all going to depend on what your current squad is looking like and how many transfers you've got saved up. And small things like only having one transfer might mean you go to Palmer. If you've got 3 or 4, I think going to Son and getting Palmer later is probably fine. The only thing is, obviously, Palmer might go up in price a little bit before you bring him in. So you've got to be careful that you've got the funds. So obviously very unfortunate that Saka didn't play at the weekend. Super annoying if you kept him. Hopefully some of you got Rodgers and players like that off the bench. But moving forward, I just think with the fixtures they've got, there's no point in taking that risk with him. You either move to Son or you move to Palmer. Ideally, you could downgrade, of course, to like a Johnson, Eze, someone like that instead. But I think for most people, it's going to be an upgrade. Just really quickly, for anyone still considering Foden, I just wouldn't go there. I thought he was going to start last week. Got that wrong. I think there's probably a chance he starts against Southampton, but it ain't a guarantee. And I just personally think at 9.2 million, the value just isn't there. You can get Son for 0.6 million more, who's guaranteed to start, probably on penalties, good minutes as well. He didn't play a huge amount in the last game, but he was obviously just coming off the back of an injury. You just don't have that with Foden. You've got no guarantee of minutes with him. If anyone owns him, you're definitely keeping for Southampton. In terms of buying him, I just wouldn't go there. Quick reminder that Champions League football is back tomorrow, so make sure to get your predictions in over on Sleeper in their Champions League Pick'em game. It's completely free to play with prizes on offer, and you can download the app using the link in the description below or scanning that QR code on screen. So it's super easy to play. All you have to do is predict whether it's going to be a home win, an away win, or a draw in each game for every match day. So I already submitted my picks for Tuesday in Friday's video, so I'm just going to do Wednesday's picks now as well. So I'm going to go for an Atalanta home win against Celtic. I'm going to go for Leverkusen and Atletico Madrid wins 2. Barcelona versus Bayern Munich is tricky. I probably should go for Barcelona because they're at home, but I'm going to back Harry Kane and go for Bayern Munich in that game. Benfica to win at home as well. Salzburg, Man City 2. Liverpool away win. And then I'm going to go for an Inter Milan away win against Young Boys as well. That's all you have to do is predict the results of each match every match day. And then at the bottom, there's a tiebreaker where you have to put in how many goals you think will be scored total over all matches. There's prizes on offer. Like I said, it's free to play. There's $1,000 worth of prizes every match day in each prize pool. And last week it was PlayStation 5, Nintendo Switch, and AirPods as well. So if you want to play completely free, link in the description below or scan the QR code on screen and get your picks submitted, I should say, before Tuesday's games. Let's talk about Erling Haaland next. He started the season with 10 goals in 5 games, but now he's on a run of 3 blanks in a row, which I don't think he's ever done before in the Premier League, and it's not ideal when he costs 15.4 million. So there's a few things to discuss here. If you have him, how long do you keep him in your squad? If you don't have him, is it worth using your free hit to get him in and obviously change the rest of your squad as well? A lot of people are asking about that now. And if you do own him and you're not on free hit, is it worth activating your triple captainship for Southampton at home? Let's start with the free hit. In isolation, I think game week 9 is actually quite a nice week to use free hit if you're on a Salah draft with Arsenal players and you don't have Haaland. Because if we look at the fixtures in game week 9, Arsenal against Liverpool is not ideal. So if you were free hitting, you'd probably go for minimal players from that fixture. You'd definitely go for Haaland, probably Vardio as well. And then you'd stick a third Man City player in. Right now, I'm not sure exactly who that would be because most other players aren't completely nailed on. But you definitely go for 3 City. Brentford are playing Ipswich, so possibly like Flecken, Mbeumo, plus 1 more, maybe a punt on Visser. Already you've got 6 players for your free hit just from 2 games. Brentford and Man City, and then you just fill in a couple of players elsewhere. probably Palmer against Newcastle. That's your 7th player. You probably go for a Spurs player against Crystal Palace. That's your 8th player. It's very easy to build a free hit. You get Haaland for one of his best fixtures on paper all season, and you dodge the Arsenal-Liverpool game. So I don't think free hit is terrible, but I don't think I would do it. I just feel like it'll be more useful later on. We will have, even though there's going to be less blank and double game weeks and smaller ones as well than in previous seasons, there's still going to be blank and double game weeks to contend with later on, and free hit is going to be very useful to manage that. So if someone says to me, I'm going to use my free hit in 9, I wouldn't say that's a terrible decision and massively argue against it. I'm not convinced that I would do it in that situation. And if you've got a lot of transfers saved up and you're thinking of doing the, I don't know, like Salah to Haaland switch and then to switch them back afterwards, again, I don't hate that. And it's very easy for me to sit here and say I wouldn't bring Haaland in when I've literally got him in my team and captain. But if you've come this far without him, I feel like it's just one more week where you don't have to, where you don't bring him in. And if you can get away with it this week, longer term, I think you'll be in a better position. You might lose some points in game week 9, but I think not using like 2 transfers to bring him in and 2 to get him back out will be more beneficial later on. Because although Haaland's run is not terrible by any means, it's not amazing either. Like after game week 9, it's 3 away games in 4, Bournemouth, Brighton, Liverpool. The home game is Spurs. Then it's Forest at home in 14, who have been pretty good defensively. And I'm not sitting here pretending that Forest at home is a tough fixture for Man City. It's not. But Forest are a pretty decent defensive outfit. Then it's Palace away, Man United at home, Villa away. Again, not terrible fixtures, but it's a good enough run, right? I'm not pretending that Haaland's not great for those fixtures, but he doesn't feel like must-have. I think when you get to like game week 18, Everton at home, Leicester away, West Ham at home, who've been terrible this season, Brentford away, Ipswich away, that looks a lot better. You might want him then. But he's not, I don't think he's essential for this run of games. So if you could just get through game week 9 with limited damage, I think you're in a much better position to save transfers. So I can see why people want to free hit. I just don't know if I don't know if I could do it just to bring one player in. There are other upgrades, of course, like having fewer players in that Liverpool-Arsenal game could be decent. I'm personally not convinced it's worth it, but I get why people are doing it. On triple captain, this is probably one of the best single game weeks you're going to get for Erling Haaland. And we can see how many minutes he gets in the Champions League this week and then obviously make another decision ahead of the deadline this week. I've got the dilemma about whether to use the triple captain. I don't see me doing it. And look, you shouldn't make your decisions based on form, or at least you should try and reduce the amount you think about it when you're making your decisions. But I can't help but see that he's obviously got 3 blanks in a row. So that worries me a little bit. Like, against Wolves, he was anonymous in that game. I don't think he had a shot, I think people were saying. I watched the game in 4. I don't really remember one. I remember him snatching at one where he should have probably scored, or at least you'd expect him to score on another day. But just not great. Not great against Newcastle either. Southampton at home is a great fixture. I will not be surprised if he gets at least a brace in that game. But if De Bruyne is not back, it just worries me a little bit. He could easily walk away with a hat-trick. But there's part of me thinking, if I was going to do it in a single game week, why did I not just do it against Ipswich? There was a week between games. De Bruyne and Rodri are fully fit. Like, that was the week to do it. Now it feels like you've got a Champions League game, although I'm sure he'll play like 80-plus minutes against Southampton. De Bruyne might not be there. Rodri's definitely not there. I don't know. Maybe I'm just creating a narrative so that I don't have to use the chip. But that's what part of me is thinking. Why did I not just use it against Ipswich? Why is it now better against Southampton? I'm not sure it is. One of the reasons to use your triple captain, though, which we discussed around that Ipswich fixture in game week 2, there might be fewer double game weeks to actually activate your triple captain chip. There might only be 2. And if that happens, you've got potentially your free hit to use, your bench boost, your wild card and stuff like that. You might not actually have a space to use your triple captain. But there also might be. There might be more double game weeks than that, depending on what happens over the season. So I'm definitely leaning more towards not using it. He's already played Ipswich. This is obviously Southampton at home. He'll have Leicester at home at some point, game week 30. Obviously, there are other players you can triple captain as well. If we look at Salah, for example, he has got, when is it? Leicester at home in game week 18. That's Boxing Day. You're probably not going to use triple captain on Boxing Day, but you never know. Game week 23 is Ipswich at home. And also, by the time we get to those fixtures, hopefully we know what the mystery chip is as well. So it's not just free hit, second wild card, although you wouldn't use a wild card necessarily in a double game week, but free hit, triple captain, bench boost, mystery chip. There's a lot of chips to use and not necessarily all the double game weeks to do it. So I think it's fine if you want to triple captain against Southampton at home. I don't think I'm going to do it, but I wouldn't be completely surprised if last minute I just decide to whack it on. And then really quickly, if you own Haaland already, you're not free hitting, are you thinking about getting rid, you ain't doing it against Southampton at home. There's no point in even thinking about it. I think if you want to get rid of Haaland from game week 10 onwards to get more premium midfielders, it's absolutely fine, but it's not essential. Essentially, something has to be sacrificed somewhere. So for my team, I've got, wrong screen there. I've got Haaland, Son, and Trent. So if I want to get Palmer in for Bruno, I either sell Haaland or I sell Trent. And that's kind of the dilemma. And I think with Liverpool's fixtures in 10, 11, 12, Brighton at home, Villa at home, Southampton away, I'm a little bit loath to get rid of Trent. So either I need to wait until game week 12 to get Palmer, or I have to sell Haaland. I think if you want to do it, it's fine. I don't agree with this narrative that Haaland has to score 2 goals plus every game to warrant being 15 million. I don't think that's true. But if he keeps blanking like this, obviously he's not worth the money. So I think there is, because Salah's got home games in 10 and 11 and Haaland's away, and then Salah has Southampton away in 12, Haaland's got Spurs, I think it's fine to make that switch, but I don't think it's a necessity. Like, we know how Spurs defends. Haaland will get chances in that fixture. And like I already said, from 14 onwards, okay, it's not an amazing fixture run, but it's not terrible either. I think for me, and again, this is maybe creating narratives, a lot of it might just depend on Kevin De Bruyne. If he continues being out, I might just take that as an excuse to sell Haaland. It just doesn't feel, this is going to sound stupid, it doesn't feel great selling him off a bunch of blanks. I almost want to sell him from a stronger position where I've got the goals and I'm making a decision because I think it's the right one, not just because he's blanking. Because deep down, we know he's not going to keep blanking, right? It's just not going to happen. So it's feeling now like we're going to sell him at the wrong time. But sometimes you've just got to go by the fixtures, and they are going to turn a little bit after game week 9. Anyway, I'm probably rambling now. Triple captain, it's fine. I don't think I'm going to do it, but you never know. Free hit again, probably fine. I don't think I would do it either. You're definitely keeping him for Southampton. 10 onwards, if you want to sell him, I think it's fair game. So if you're looking for a midfielder around the 6 million price point this week, I think it's time to start taking Alejandro Garnacho seriously as an FPL option. I know that Man United players generally this season haven't been at the top of everyone's list in terms of transfers in, but I think Garnacho for game week 9 is a decent option. He's down to 6.2 million, so the price is nice. It's West Ham away this week, who've been really poor defensively. Chelsea at home in 10 is a bit more difficult. But then it's Leicester at home, Ipswich away, and Everton at home. He's put up so far 0.5 expected goals per 90, which is great. 0.08 expected assists. It's worth putting context around that and saying for half of the games, he hasn't played a huge amount of minutes. And so those numbers will probably come down a little bit. But I still think he's one of, if not the best Man United attacker at the moment. Like, Bruno Fernandes is always going to be not terrible because he's nailed on penalties, etc. But in terms of open play threat, I think Garnacho is ahead of him for scoring goals, as we've seen. I just think he's a good pick. And I think, people will say to me, you've got Man United bias, that's why you're talking about their players. But actually, in terms of transfers in, I've barely mentioned Man United players whatsoever. I've kept Fernandes in my own team, of course, but I've not really recommended them as transfers in. I think if you remove the bias that other people have towards Man United, Garnacho is just a solid pick right now, and it certainly helps that he's getting the minutes. It's now 490 minutes in a row. Now, you can't guarantee he's going to start every game. He's not at the level of nailedness that a Fernandes is or a Salah is, etc. But 490s in a row is extremely promising. The reason I say he's not completely nailed is because Amad Diallo is also an option as well. Obviously, Anthony's there too, but Anthony is not a massive problem for any Man United players. Amad Diallo has got 0 minutes the last 2 games, 5 minutes against Spurs. We saw this last year, and I was hopeful it was going to happen at the start of the season, and it didn't. But once Garnacho was in and playing regularly, he just basically never got benched. So you can't guarantee he's going to start, but I think you've got a good sign going forward that he will get regular starts and good minutes. Like, it was only one start in the first 4 games, and against Liverpool he only played 68 minutes. The 490s I think is extremely promising. So you couple that with the fixtures and the price point. If you've got the spare midfield slot, I really like him. Like, if I had the money to upgrade like a Semenyo to Garnacho, I'd be quite tempted, even though I've already got Fernandes, to maybe even double up, despite the fact that Man United have not scored a huge amount of goals. Because I think any goals they do score, there's a good chance that Garnacho is involved. And I think when you compare him to like a Rashford who's 6.9, I'd probably just rather take the saving. I think Rashford is more likely to get subbed off than Garnacho is. So I think he's decent. I think if you're comparing him to other players in and around that price, the 2 most popular ones are Brennan Johnson. And popular is not the right word, but I still think that Eze is an option too. I'll talk about him in a second. Brennan Johnson's only 0.4 million more. I think it's hard to justify Garnacho over Brennan Johnson in isolation, because Brennan's played 2 90s in a row as well. Spurs are a much better attacking side. And as we discussed with Son already, the fixtures are good. Palace away, Villa at home, Ipswich at home. If it's a choice between the 2, I'd probably go for Brennan Johnson. Now, if you're someone that's got Solanke and you want to stick with him, you want to do Saka to Son or something like that, and you've already got like a Pedro Porro, I think having those 3 Spurs and Garnacho is okay. But if you've got the spare Spurs slot and you're not likely to use it, I would still pick Brennan Johnson over Garnacho. I think in terms of starts, he's looking pretty good, and the minutes are decent enough too as well. So as much as I like Garnacho, I don't like him that much that I would pick him over Brennan. The fact that Man United don't have to play Man City away in Game Week 12, though, is kind of nice. If you want to take a punt, maybe you go Garnacho. In terms of Eze, I quite like talking about players on the early thoughts video that are playing on Monday night, because then there's a little bit of bias taken out of it. So I've obviously not seen the Forest game before I talk about him. I wouldn't say he's been hugely unlucky, but I think the returns he's had so far for what he's capable of are definitely low. And I think at some point that is going to turn around. It's very difficult to sit there and take all the blanks and the price drops. I understand that. And if people want to sell him, that's absolutely fine. But I think Game Week 9 Spurs at home, then Wolves away, Fulham at home, Villa away, Newcastle at home, Ipswich away is not a bad run. I think if Mateta's minutes aren't completely guaranteed for 90 every single week, that means at times Eze is going to be first choice penalty taker as well. 6.7 million for 0.1 million more over Brennan Johnson. Like, Eze's place in the team is absolutely locked. I think Brennan Johnson's is at the moment as well, because there's not a huge amount of competition for that right spot. But Eze, there's no concerns there. The fixtures are good. Again, I think if it's between him and Garnacho, you probably go Eze. But it's a 0.5 million saving, and that could be really useful, especially when you're trying to fit in the amount of premium attackers there are this year at that 10 million plus price point. So if I had to order them, I'd probably have Garnacho, I think, in 3rd place. I'd probably go Brennan, Eze, Garnacho. So it really depends on what your thoughts are. If you're someone with Eze, you're just sick of him, and you don't have a Spurs slot, maybe you're the kind of person that could buy Garnacho. Maybe if you just want to take a punt on a massive differential, then he's an option as well. So I think he's a good pick, but it depends how much money you've got to spend, because for 0.4 more you get Johnson, and for 0.5 more you get Eze. I just don't think many people watching this would buy Eze right now. They'd have to see something special against Forest to do it. And so I think with the fixtures Man United have got, Garnacho is definitely an alternative. So I'm just going to go through some notes from the weekend. As always, some of these players will be discussed in a little bit more detail in other videos this week. So don't panic if I don't answer your question about them right now. Vissa was back for Brentford. I believe it was 24 minutes against Man United. Yeah, 24 minutes. And that's ahead of schedule. So I think he was initially expected to be out longer. So that's extremely promising. And he comes back to a great fixture run. Ipswich are home this week. Fulham away, Bournemouth at home, Everton away, Leicester at home. Next 5 fixtures are great. There's a reason that a lot of us already own in Burmo. I think if you want to take a punt on him at 5.9, I really like it. The slight caveat that he's just back from injury, they might be careful with him and give him another appearance off the bench before he starts. So you can't guarantee he's going to be in that 11 against Ipswich. But I think if he's fit enough, he will be, because he's just such a good player for them. And don't forget that first 4 games of the season, 3 goals, 1 assist. And they played City and Liverpool away in those first 4 games. Now, he blanked against Liverpool, but he had a goal against City before he got injured. So I really like that punt. I wouldn't be particularly worried about doubling up on Mbeumo and Vissa. It only really matters if you get to a really bad fixture run and you don't have the transfers to deal with it. But honestly, like Chelsea away in 16 and maybe Arsenal at home in 19 are probably the worst fixtures up until Southampton away in 20. I think it's fine to have both of those players. Luis Diaz bench for the second game running. He's a sell for me. It's Arsenal away this week, which doesn't look quite so bad because Saliba is missing, but it's still not going to be easy as long as Arsenal can, keep 11 players on the pitch. And if Diaz starts in the Champions League, there's no guarantee he starts against Arsenal. And then you've continually got this problem. I just don't think he's a good FPL pick. He always gets subbed early when he plays anyway. You can't guarantee he's going to start. And if he doesn't start, he always comes on. So you've always got that chance of a cameo. I would get rid personally. Danny Welbeck, the injury apparently is not as bad as it initially looked. He said he hopes to be back in training soon. He's not going to make game week 9, which is Wolves at home. And I think after that it is, let me just bring up Brighton players here. It's the Liverpool away game, and then City at home. I think if you've got Welbeck in your squad and you can just bench him for a few weeks and then hope he's back after that, happy days, right? Because the fixtures from 12 onwards are good. But for most people, if you were planning on playing him, you probably start to look to get rid. Someone like Vissa, Jimenez, etc. Andreas Pereira took the penalty as expected for Fulham, but he did miss it. So maybe Jimenez takes the next one. His record is good. He's in red hot form even without penalties. He just looks like a great option. And I think for his price, which is now, I need to double check what it's up to. It is, 5.7 million. It's such a cheap price. Fulham are a good attacking team. I think when you get to game week 13, the fixtures are a bit trickier. Like Spurs away, Brighton at home, Arsenal at home, Liverpool away. 13 to 16 is not ideal. But if you've got a squad with 8 attackers and you can bench him in some of those games, I think he's a really good pick. The only thing that would slightly worry me, again, I've said this before, is if this run of form just runs out at some point, they have got Meniz that could just come straight back in. I think with some players, like, even if they go on a little bit of a bad run, they're just going to keep playing and you don't have those concerns. I wouldn't say Raul Jimenez is like 100% nailed or anything like that, but the way he's playing at the moment, it's impossible to take him out of the team. So I really like him. Calvert-Lewin, 4 blanks in a row now, 1.32 expected goals against it. So it's really frustrating that he blanked again. Personally, I would just look at it that it's Fulham at home, Southampton away next 2 games. That's a pretty easy hold, but there's lots of cheap forwards you can move to if you've got a spare transfer. Saliba only suspended for 1 match. I think if you want to sell him for like a Vardio, it's fine. I do stand by the fact that Arsenal is still one of, if not the best defence in the league once they've got their full 11 fit and available and they're playing with 11 players, etc. And from game week 12 onwards, I'm still more than happy to carry double defence through the next 3 fixtures because of how good the fixtures are from 12 onwards. But if you're annoyed with double defence and you've got Saliba and you wanted to play him this week, etc., I think it's fine to sell. Foden bench again, I've already mentioned him. If you've got him, you keep him. If you haven't, you could take a 1-week punt on him. I just don't think it's worth the transfer. I'd rather get someone in that you know is definitely going to play. Lewis started again, so hopefully he'll start against Southampton. Walker was out injured, so we can keep an eye on that. And lastly, don't forget to check out Sleeper's Champions League Pick'em game if you haven't already. Completely free, links in the description below, and there's prizes on offer. What more could you want? Thank you very much for watching that video. Give it a like if you enjoyed it. Hit that subscribe button as well. Rate 5 stars if you're listening on podcast, and I'll be back tomorrow for transfer tips.